Welcome again to our course on biodesign, strategies for innovation and design on bioengineering. Today we're going to take a look at the topic on needs filtering. This is going to be really interesting because needs filtering is one of the critical, most important, most renowned topics on a biodesign process. And this explores how you go by and filter all the needs that you have explored in a clinical rotation, and you go by and choose the one that you want to work on for the next couple of years of your life. Okay, so if we go to slide number 2, you can see the objectives of this particular class. Basically, I want you to understand how to develop a needs ranking system that is useful for you, and that it's also easy for you to manage. And that it's also a system that considers key factors, okay, including your goals and the goals that others have identified, and all the different factors that the stakeholders will most likely agree that are the most important to select a topic to work in. Also, I want you to understand that in developing this needs ranking, there should be an objective rating that it's assigned to each factor and each need, so that every single evaluation is done in the same way. Okay. Then after that, I want you to know that the needs should be filtered and prioritized by using these scores. So almost always quantitative and semi-quantitative methods to choose the solution. Okay. And finally, to learn how to create a needs specification for the highest priority needs. So if we go to slide 3, we can see here an example of how to do a needs filtering. And basically, the idea of doing needs filtering is the same as a funnel. You're going to start with a bunch of needs, which might range from the hundreds to even the thousands. And in this case, for example, for a good start on the biodesign process, you're going to see that up to 400, 500 needs are more than enough to get into a good clinical need that it's worth pursuing in the economical perspective, clinical perspective, and in the feasibility perspective. You're going to have this bunch of needs that you're going to select from your rotations and that you're going to feel are the most important. Or you can even put all the needs, no matter how important you perceive they are at first, and you put those in the filters. So there are going to be different layers of filtering. The basic one is 3 layers of filtering, but you can do even more. The more, the better filter probably those needs are going to be, or the more, the easier it's going to be to filter many needs if it's in the thousands range. Okay, so when you have about 100, more than 100 needs, you first have to make a quick decision analysis on the minimal research that you have already gathered on those hundreds of thousands or thousands of needs. Okay, so critical needs that you have to evaluate in this first filtering, it's if there are duplicate needs, which happens a lot. How big is the market? You know, from a very easy 5-minute search on the web. Is this a real need? So have I validated that the need is critical through interviews, or have I already chosen this because a doctor validated this for me? Or even if I'm interested or my team is interested in solving this need, which might not be the case for all the needs. As you're going to see, when you do this, almost half of all the needs are going to be filtered down, and you're going to have fairly 50% of the ones that you started with. In the second filter, you're going to have an approach that is a little bit more researched on. And basically what you have to do is start using this weight system to start ranking different needs according to the small fragments of information that you have for every and each of your needs. In this, you're going to do, as we're going to see later on, a spreadsheet or another scoring system in which you're going to try to evaluate really fast and with very few data points, maybe the market size, the patient's impact, how they provide the providers want a new solution to merge or not, and of course your intuition. Some starting points for doing this first filter might be in the market size. Is this market bigger or smaller to $500 million? The global market size. Are more than 1 million patients affected by this condition, or are more than 1 million physicians or clinicians or medical providers affected by this problem? Are there available information points that validate that providers are actually looking actively for a solution for this problem? Those can go into a scoring system, as we are going to see later on, to start to filter down in this second layer of filtering process. After that, we can go to a third filtering stage, in which from about 50 or 60 different needs, you're going to try to go down to about 20 or 10 or less needs that you want to further explore and hopefully decide from one of them. From this is still going to be a weight system, but that it's going to be based in opposition to the second layer of filtration. This is going to have more extensive research on the different need characteristics that you are exploring. So in this case, you're still going to explore the market size, the patient's impact, the provider willingness to acquire for the new products. You're going to think more about is this need already met? Are there other alternative treatment options that in a fairly good fashion solve the problem or not? And with this, you're going to try to score again your needs, but with this time with far more data than you had in the previous stage. And at the end, you want to rely on all this data, but of course on your intuition on which one of these needs fits with you and your goals, and which one of these needs actually feels that the one that you want to work in, which at the end of the day might be as important as the validation that there is a big market and a lot of patients suffering from this. Okay. If we go to slide 4, you can see some types of ways that people have done this type of scoring and scoring processes in academic settings. So for example, in Stanford Biodesign, you can see that there are various examples of tools that you can use. It can be as simple as a spreadsheet, as we are going to see later on, or it can be more complex as a small program that you can run on your computer on a server, in which in an academic setting, all the students in the biodesign process throughout different generations can start putting information in the database from different problems by putting all the information that they have gathered. So for example, in this case, for pulmonary vein ablation or for other types of ablation, you can do a fairly good analysis, small but good, about the market size, how well this solution has already been met, the conflicts, how willingness are the providers to adopt new technologies, what type of technologies are there already to solve the problem, and many other factors like number of patients and other ways to quantify the market size that might be relevant when scoring a specific problem. This could be really useful in the context of a clinical program or a corporation that is trying to do innovation actively in medical devices, because if needs are repeated, that can be very, very early on explored, and also people is not going to have every single year to start looking for all the data that is relevant for that problem. You just can only go to the database to see if that problem has already been mapped, and if it's not, then you fill all the fields to make a bigger database every single day. And that could come really handy for a program on biodesign. If we go to slide 5, you can see, that these tools like the one shown here can be extensive or as short as you want. In this case, it is fairly extensive and has a lot of fields to fill in. If we go to slide 6, you can see another type of scoring models. This one, for example, is a very easy one to follow, spreadsheet. That could be an output from the previous type of example tools, but you can do this on your home or in your free time. And basically what you're going to do is that you're going to put on one side the list of all the needs that you have discovered, and the ones that you think are incremental, mixed, or blue sky, something that is going to later on be validated by the scores that you get from these evaluations. And in this, you can do the scoring system the way you want. You can score from 1 to 5, from 0 to 5, from 0 to 3, whatever it is whatever is the way you want to actually score these needs. But something that that must be on your mind every time that you want to do this is that it's always more useful to use scoring methods that have been already validated. And for that, you can take a look at the biodesign book that we have explored so far. Or the one that I propose here comes from, again, from the Stanford Biodesign Group, in which you basically start evaluating very important pinpoints that are going to define in a very validated fashion which needs are the best and which are not. In this case, you can divide your spreadsheet on scoring the market size of each and every need, the patient's impact, so how many patients or how well for patients it could be a new solution, the impact for providers, so how much you can increase the number of patients that go with one provider, or how much money you can save from that provider, the type of need that there is, if it's a blue sky mix one or a incremental need to solve, the degree in which you think or you have already known that the need is already met with alternative treatment options, a feasibility index that basically means how well suited is your team or you alone to solve this problem, okay, technically. And of course, a personal kit favorite, which is basically your gut feeling on how much you like the need, and that could be scored in any way you want. As long as all the needs are scored in the same way, no matter the scoring system, it's going to output and prioritize your needs in the best way possible. So if we go to slide 8 and 9, you can see that all these scoring systems can later on be filtered into, as we said, incremental, mixed, and blue sky needs. And at the end, it is not shown here, but at the end you should create a weighting system that considers all the different variables that you have already explored to get one single score for each one of your needs. And with that, you can arrange them in incremental order, so that you know which ones are the 10 or 5 best needs to grab. So if we go to slide 9, this exemplifies the idea, the core idea of the challenge of needs filtering. As you have seen, to try to find Wally in one of those books sometimes can become really, really difficult. But at the end of the day, the purpose of a needs filtering system and a scoring system is to make this job as easy as in this picture, right? That after having seen a picture of Wally hidden within a context that is very difficult to find him, the goal is to turn that into an almost black and white background in which you can distinguish Wally, and in this case the best need that you have to tackle in the easiest way possible, and to make it as evident as you can make it. The other value of the needs filtering is that it gives you validation that the needs that you're choosing are the ones that you should truly tackle. Because sometimes many stakeholders are going to say why you are thinking on solving this problem, why you want to enter into this space, and why you want to create a solution for this problem. And the answer could be in that filtering scoring system, in which you say, okay, I analyzed 500 different needs, and the ones that are the top because of this, and this, and this, and this multiple information and data points that we have gathered from all those, we know for sure that the best clinical needs in which we can focus are these 10, because of our own expertise, we chose this one. And that's a validation that you are working on something that is truly valuable and that it's something that you can tackle. And with this, we have concluded this course on needs filtering and scoring systems. For more information, please refer to the chapter 2.5 on needs filtering. And if you want, you can learn more about this with the case study on stage 2 on our biodesign book from CNews and Stanford. I'm Luis Sorensen. Thank you for watching. Welcome again to our class on needs filtering. This is the time of our practical case. If you stayed long enough for this presentation, you now are going to explore this practical case, which is pretty interesting. So if we go to slide 11, you can see that our practical case has to do with hospital-acquired infections or healthcare-associated infections, which is two definitions of this same acronym. Sometimes one is used and sometimes the other. Basically what it is all the infections that happen in a hospital, not necessarily because the patient already had that infection, but because the different interactions, physical interaction mostly, that people have within the hospitals between doctors and other patients actually causes different infections. This is a very, very big problem nowadays. Actually, it says that 1 in 20 patients will get one of these types of infections, that it's again an infection that is caused within a hospital because of the interaction that the different healthcare providers and patients and among patients have. Okay, so from those, only in the US, almost 100,000 people will die from this type of interactions. That, of course, cause infections that might not be as manageable as the conditions that they have before entering the hospital, and that will cause death of many patients. Okay, something that is really interesting to notice is that when thinking on how to solve this problem, you could think that it's really multifactorial. That it could be so complex to tackle all the infections because it's caused by so many pathogens, that how you could think ever on solving this problem. Something really interesting to notice though is that many public health institutions have already explored this problem, and they know that one of the very easy things that you could do to avoid this type of infections is prevention through hand washing. And not only hand washing, but thorough and really well done hand washing between hospital clinicians and of course patients if possible. If you see here in slide 11, you can see that the way in which a patient interacts might be as particular as every single patient. So sometimes to know exactly when and how that infection actually spread could be really difficult, but if you prevent the source of the infection, which might be the vector of our hands being infected by touching one patient and then another, then that could solve the problem. And by thinking on this, let's think that the need is how to prevent hospital-acquired infection or hospital-associated infections, healthcare-associated infections in a clinical setting through sanitation of the hands or the body parts that are in direct contact with patients. Thinking on this, we can go into slide 12 and take a look at some solutions that have already tackled this problem or that are meant to tackle this problem in the next few years. In this case, the company and the product Hygienex, which is already backed up by GE Healthcare, has developed this system that it basically uses a wrist factor, almost a clock hand watch device that you put in your wrist, and basically tells you, monitors if you went to the bathroom or to a gel sanitizer dispenser, and also measures if you have already done the washing procedure correctly. So it is not only to go into the bathroom and being monitored that you went into the bathroom to wash your hands, but that you also grab soap or gel, and that you also perform the sanitation of hands in the way the WHO proposes, which is something pretty important. And with this, the system actually includes some bases near gels from sanitization, and also some RFID communication systems that can be fixed to the tap water or to a wall or next to the patient. And basically what it does is that it tells you, or tells the hospital administrators, if some infections were actually directed or caused directly because of the interaction of a group of patients with a group of clinicians, which might be really good for tracking infection data, but also to incentivize hand washing and good practices on asepsia in clinical settings, which is something that is going to truly alter the way we think on infections in the next few years. With this, you might think, oh, well, there are a lot of different needs that I can choose from, but why is this possibly a need that could be on the top list of your needs filter? Well, the market might be really big. There are a lot of patients that suffer from this, and also there are a lot of costs associated with hospital-acquired infections or healthcare associated infections. With this in mind, we can know that the market might be really big, and we can score this need in that way. Also, we can think on the number of patients that are affected by this. Okay, so in the US, there are more than 100,000 patients that are affected by this. Okay, so for worldwide, maybe the number might be really, really big, more than 1 million patients possibly. And that could also be a high score on our needs filtering criteria and scoring system. Also, the provider's impact is big, and the insurance company have also to do with this, and the impact for them, if you only hand washed yourself, if you're a clinician, could be also pretty big. And also, the feasibility analysis could be that you are an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer or an industrial designer that might have good ideas on how to solve this problem in the best way possible with human factors and by not altering the workflow of a clinician when taking care of a patient. And with this in mind, and if your gut feeling is steers in that direction, then this might be a need that fills all the criteria of a scoring system. And that's why we can think that it might be a good need that might go down into all the filters that we have seen so far. But again, if there are some more pressing needs already out there, they might score even larger than this particular need. And with this, we conclude the practical case of needs filtering. Thanks for watching. My name is Luis Soengsen. See you later.